they talked about before?
We spoke about the kids, and I remember the kids. Remember Colonial Inn?
Right.
Were you there? I even have some pictures there. 4 of you. Some of your pictures too. In the Colonial Inn, you all went in to swim.
The swimming pool, right?
Some of them, I don't know if you were on the. You were sitting on the carriage there from Colonial Inn. If you have time when you come back, I'll show them to you.
Pictures, yeah.
And there was a whole lot to just to stop and think. In fact, I got some of the pictures. I sent some to Nancy. Also, she was there too, and her pictures are on. Your picture, and Rick, and Lee. Everybody was on those pictures that I have. And it came up that I came back from California, and Nancy wanted me to send her some pictures. So I started looking at some pictures. I saw so many that I don't remember I had them,
Mm-hmm.
You get something out of it. You see yourself when you were younger, and the children were all younger, and I got pictures of your mother and your dad.
Mm-hmm.
I got a lot of pictures of that. And there was one picture, the whole family was together at a wedding or something. And I'm trying to think of some of those I saw. And
there was one from my wedding to Katie where we had the whole family. And then there was another one from when Nancy got married the first time.
Yeah. I don't know if I have that anymore. And I have some pictures there hard to make out. Bob is there, and you have to see him, and you look at him, and you find out it's where they were. Remember, we used to go to Colonial Inn.
Right.
And let's see there. I can't think of where else we went. I have a batch of pictures I took in Israel.
Mm-hmm. I think I've seen some of those.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Did I show them to you?
I think I saw them when you came back from Israel.
Oh. I got pictures there. It shows at that time, that's about 13, 14. There's one place we went to, the guy took us to buy something, and across the street was a store, and there were soldiers with guns on top of the building, the other one.
Mm-hmm. Well, how did you feel?
This is so many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And now people are afraid to go on account of soldiers and wars and killings and stuff like that. But that time, we had a nice time in Israel and we were so sorry, we were foolish that we didn't take some extra time there. Considering what it cost in those days, it's peanuts compared to what today.
Right.
And we had a hotel, everything was reserved for us. We had breakfast and lunch, or sometimes breakfast and dinner. And the last place we went to, I can't think of the name, it was something on the type of the bottom blue. We had a nice couple of days there. In fact, we were supposed to go to some place else. I can't think of it again, the name, but it's very hot there. So I was told to go to this place. I can't. And it so happened that I was talking to my sister about it. Her son, Martin Meyerson.
Right.
He was in Israel. he traveled all around the world. The last few times my sister tried to speak to his wife, he was in Spain, he was in Paris. He's still president, and he's known all over the world.
Is he still at the University of Pennsylvania?
Pennsylvania, yeah.
Right.
And it was so nice there, but she told me she was supposed to go and meet him in this place in Israel, but she got the flu and she couldn't go. So he wrote and he told her he's very happy that she didn't come because it was so hot in that particular part of Israel that it was unbearable.
Mm-hmm.
And today she's she's been very busy all her about 35 years or more she has with the paraplegics working. And now that she moved out away from there, she has a plaque in the house, big bronze plaque, 35 years of service, besides other plaques and so on, and different things. And now she's there. Well, her sons, one is in Chicago, one is in Orlando. And I call her very often, speak to her. And she calls me. We keep in touch that way. Because it was very good for me that she did too, because she had just gone through the same experience that I taken care of her husband, like I had with grandmother. And it helped both of us, You talked about the things and you got over it. And but I was worried the last few days that when she told me the other day that she fell in the stadium, it was after the graduation,
Mm-hmm.
and she bruised her leg. So they took her to, hospital, the doctor, and they examined it, x-rayed it, and there was no break. It's just badly bruised. So when I get home tomorrow, I'll call her again and find out how she's doing, how she's getting along. Because I know what I had with her. I know maybe a hip, you have a hip break, it's a bad thing. And a bruise is bad enough too. I said once, grandmother was in the house at home and she went somewhere in the bedroom and she slipped and fell on the floor. And the doctor, there was no break, but she was badly bruised on the side. They told her she's good for, take 6 weeks till they heal her. It took her a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But grandmother really went through a bad deal with those 3 operations on her legs. And, I know what the operation was. I was 18 weeks in the hospital with that. And 18 weeks. And they took me, they got me out. They walked around with me with a walker. The nurse come along and one on one side and the other till I got used to walking with the walker. And when I went home, I went home with the walker too. And I just walk around the house. And it's just the way it went. It just got little by little, until I put the walker away and used the cane.
Mm-hmm.
And the cane I used, like I told you, for a long time, until I just got tired of it. I used to walk down in the grocery store downstairs, and I'd stand there and I'd get something there, and this cane was right with me. And I'd turn around with the cane, and they knew me already. They used to come running with the cane and give it to me. So that when it came that time, and I went down, I didn't have no cane. And I said, hell with it, I'm going to go without the cane. And I walked, because I walked down, I went down to the elevator, and I walked around. Then I kept, no more. And I kept on walking that way, a little pain, a little aches, and limp a little bit. It gradually wore away. Even today, even a couple of the last week, oh, my foot started to bother me. I went to the doctor and he examined my foot and he says, "There's nothing." He says he gave me some sort of pills that were supposed to help me in the pain, but they didn't seem to do anything. But I take plain aspirin as good as any of those remedies they have for pain.
Mm-hmm.
And I take some in the morning and things like at night. If I have any pain extra, I take a couple of extra aspirins. And well, grandmother wasn't there. I had to take care of myself. I'm fortunate. The location I'm in now is ideal for that. I take the elevator down, and on the corner is the market. I can go in, I can get meat, sandwiches, beer, almost any bread, corned beef, sandwich. I can get a corned beef sandwich. I can get so many different things. It's a regular market.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've got restaurants all around there that I go. Once I go here, I have a Greek restaurant. I got two Chinese restaurants right around there. A Jewish restaurant. So it's very convenient. And I got the post office is not far. And as many times as I wanted to go somewhere else, I've stopped and consider it. Well, I was in California, they wanted me to stay there.
I know, they still do.
They still do.
They still do.
She spoke to me the other day. Mark is one wonderful guy. I see the way he acts, and he works with Nancy,
Mm-hmm.
and he's very nice. And I enjoyed it there because the climate is very nice.
Mm-hmm.
And you see, if the only difference would be that I would be with like a family together.
That's right. They'd be very happy to have you.
Yeah, I know, and I would be happy to be there. So the other day she was talking to me, so I says I'll have to make up my mind. I was thinking of getting rid of the apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And then see the rent that I pay here, I could use there. But you have to stop and think a few times before you make any move.
That's right.
That's why I'm talking to my sister too.
Okay.
She's taken a place. She says it's $32,000. They furnish your meals. You don't have to shop. You don't have to. But then I spoke to somebody else, and they said they're very nice at the beginning. But once you get in there, you're in. You can't. You can't get out unless you want to lose everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to talk her out of it. But she has a very nice place now. It's a 13-story condominium right at the beach. And when Fred was alive, they liked it very much. They enjoyed it very much. He unfortunately had a heart attack, very sick. That's the way things are. You get older. What are you going to do?
I got something I've always wanted to know.
What?
How is it you decided to become an engraver?
The only school I went to was public school. I didn't go to no high school or anything.
This was in New York?
Yeah?
In New York?
Yeah, in Brooklyn. I was 13 when I finished public school, graduated. So what do you do? So I was supposed to get a job because my parents are not circumstances where they could do things to me. So anyway, I met one of the boys went to school with, and he had a job working for an engraver. He didn't care about it. So he told me about it. He needs somebody. So I went up to see him, and he wanted to see my father. I was only 13. And he would, $2 a week, and he was going to teach me the trade. You know, I used to, you don't know Brooklyn, I used to get on a car for a nickel and get a transfer, and I'd go all the way out to one street, Metropolitan Avenue, and I'd go to a couple of stores there, pick up work. And then on the way back, also some stores there along Graham Avenue. When I got back to him, I gave him the work. And then in the afternoon, I had to go to another place. So there wasn't much spent. But I was with him, I must be 5 or 6 years, because then in a position that he couldn't give me any more money. I was getting $6 a week, and he couldn't afford it. Because where his place was, in his front bedroom there by the window, he had a bench, a little polishing machine, and he used it. It's all hand work. There's no such thing like a machine work today.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked for him. I was learning. I was able to do things. And then finally, I got a call from another jewelry store, the watchmaker there. He had been out at South River, New Jersey was the place. It was South River, New Jersey. That they need somebody that can do a little engraving, work in the store. So I packed up to get a job. I thought I'd get to $10 or $12 a week. And I rented a room there to sleep, you know, and I had my dinner at a small restaurant, small town, and this was in 1916 or something like that, before the war. And I was there a few years until they started with the draft business. So then I gave up and I came home. And I went back to my old boss, the fellow that taught me the trade. He needed somebody to help give or some work. Then he gave it up altogether and I took over. So I knew all the stores there and I was doing the work. And I stayed in the engraving business. I didn't see how long, how many years. Yeah, I stayed there with him. Then I got a job in South River, New Jersey, I was telling you about. He called up, they need somebody. So I got on the train there to New Brunswick. From New Brunswick, I took a bus and I got to South River, New Jersey. And I was there quite a while.
Excuse me just a minute.
I had an older brother was over in France. And the oldest brother was on what they called limited service in those days. If they needed you, they would call you, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I came along, and here I'm supposed to go too. About 18 already. So, and as you see, I was working with the man that originally taught me the trade, and he gave it up, and some other fellow took it. And he couldn't seem to do much with it, so the jeweler there saw it. They asked me, and I went in there, and there's a diamond setter and a jeweler there, and I was the engraver. You know, with the Army, I was supposed to leave November 12th. Yeah, I was all packed up, and the war ended November 11th. Yeah, I, like your father, he was disappointed he couldn't get a go there, you know. And my mother was, of course, father were very happy. And then I stayed there for quite a long time, years, with the engraving. I had a little place there, bench, my tools. And today I regret that I gave up those tools, I gave them away. I went and said that this organization from Jewish organization, I still don't know the name. I know it, and I called them up and I gave them the tools, I gave them some other stuff, clothing, you know, grandmother gone. And what do I need all that stuff? A lot of stuff in fact, even today, there's some stuff there. The girl was there to clean. I gave her things over, get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's no use. It lays around. And that's the way it was. You know, I was got married. I met your grandmother through some friends. Had a store on what they call Hamburger, you said, something like that. And I used to go in there to see them. And my grandmother used to go there to shop, you know, go around. She lived right around the corner. I met her, got acquainted, went out. And one thing and another led to marriage. And,
how long did you know her before you got married?
Oh, I know her quite a few. I don't know, I don't even remember, but it's quite a while. They used to go out, go to the beach, go to a restaurant, eat the movies.
Mm-hmm.
What those days? This is God, I don't know, 1920, 1921, something like that. And things were different. Today you couldn't do it right. Your fellow goes out with a girl today. He's got to have a car. And he's got to. It's an expensive proposition. A young fellow today wants to go out with his girlfriend, and that's the way it led. And Lou came along, and well, it was very nice. It was both fine, but he's always in sickness. He had went to sick a few times. He was very good though. And you know, grandmother, most of the time was spent on dead, you know.
Mm-hmm.
The thing would be, you know, it isn't something that you get sick and you get up, a few months later you're all right again. Then he got into, what was his trouble again? Breathing and so many different things that he was sick with. And he also, he got it, got in with that fellow that had
With the ham radio?
a radio place. And I still have a picture of his friend there, the pal there, Paranick. They were boyhood friends, and they had a club around there where he lived on Cypress Court, where all these boys were interested in radio. You know, and they met it all the time, and they discussed all that. He went and got his license as an amateur operator, and so the Paranick also, all of them. Dick Walsh, another boy. He enlisted in the Army or the Navy, something like that. Most of those boys were interested in that amateur operation, and they did very well. So it got to a point there where he needed a job or something. I don't know just how it worked out, but he got the job at this fellow that sold the parts, you know, for TV, for radio, and he knew a lot about it, so he had a nice job. He stayed there quite a while, a long time, until, in fact, he gave himself a little interest in the business there too. And unfortunately, he passed away.
Credit cards when you were growing up, though.
No, even now I didn't have a credit card. You know, I tried to get a Visa card from my bank there on the corner. So they sent me a letter, an application. I wrote out how much money I have in an account in the bank. So they sent me a letter a few months later that I have to have an income of at least $1,500 a month, or $12,000 a year.
Mhm.
Otherwise, they can't give me no Visa card. So I says, the hell with it. When I went to California, I bought traveler's checks.
Mm-hmm.
And I still have a few left with me. Wherever you wanted to go, you know, they were very nice to me, and I always tried to reciprocate, and I took them out to dinner with the kids, and them. Mark and Nancy are very lovely to me.
Mm-hmm.
And she took care of my laundry there. Oh, you know,
Mm-hmm.
it's a big help. And so when I get to about the end of the month, I decided I had to go home and have to straighten out the bank account to see everything is okay. And they said, anytime they want, all I have to do is come.
Mm-hmm.
And then just the other day I talked.
Yeah.
She said, when am I coming?
I'm coming back, yeah.
She's a sweet person.
She is. She really is. She's special. When you were married, and Dad was still a little boy, you know, I guess he was
Yeah.
a little bit older then. Well, I was still fairly young then. In the Depression, what was it like then? Did you get hit very hard by the Depression?
Well, you see, I was very fortunate that I still had that place to do a little engraving. I didn't make much, but I made enough to get the expenses, you know, what we had to have to live on. I still had those customers there that gave me but I managed until things got a little better, and I just kept working at the engraving. I had people that used to come to me because they're working, or I had somebody else pick it up for me, you know. It's nothing big, but it was enough to get along.
Did you ever want to do anything else?
Anything else?
Yeah.
I really don't know. You see, you get married, you get settled down, and you're making a living. Everything pointed to Christmas. Christmas was the big day where I made a few dollars. They put it aside, you know. You had enough. It was nothing, no big deal, but it was enough, you know, for a living. We got along, and that's the way it is. Yeah.
When did you decide to move down to Florida?
What?
When did you decide to move down to Florida?
Oh, yeah. Let's see now. Somebody called me. Let's see, I'm thinking how it worked out that I decided to go to Florida. Yes, it's something, I'll get to it. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you just can't remember the actual thing that happened. Oh, wait a minute. We had a relative about a block away. This guy was in a real estate business. Sharon, I can't think of his name. And they called me. We were always talking that someday, because one year, I think it was 1938, I told grandmother to take Lou and take him to Florida for a couple of months. He went down to Florida. You know, they got for about $125. They got a room for about over a month, and you know, things in those days, you don't realize it how it's possible that you could get things so cheap. And they used to go out. They had enough money for meals, and finally, the time was up, and they came back, and you know, your dad looked beautiful. And those the month or so in Florida was so wonderful for him. it made such a change. It was really something. In fact, he went back again the next. No, her sister went along with her, and then one year, Dad decided that he's going down by himself. It was a wonderful thing, but it was also a bad thing. He went down at the same hotel where he'd stayed before, Jack Cambridge, or still it's in existence. And he got a job as a clerk at the desk. So, you know, when you're a clerk, the people come in and they ask for favors, and first thing you know, they're pulling out a pack of cigarettes.
Right.
There's where the whole trouble started. Because he never, you know, that was the way he spoke. He never spoke, you know. Once he started, he couldn't stop. And that was his downfall, his health. That was the real trouble, the smoking. And you know, he stayed there. He looked well when he came back too. So that's when I think he got the job at the radio place. Hey, he did all right there. He was getting a fairly decent salary. I don't remember exactly all the details, a little bonus or something, you know. And you know who? He was living across the street, right from Bernstein's.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they get up in the morning, and they see Lou's car right across the street, and he's always going to work by that time. And they look out, the car is still there. Nobody moved, so I don't know, they got in touch. Rick, or they called the policeman, and then they opened the door, and they went inside, and they'd fall asleep. So, that was the end.
How did my father meet my mother?
Your father, let's see, I'm trying to think. No, your grandfather and your grandmother lived next door to my sister in Sheepshead, near Sheepshead Bay. Right next door, they were very good friends. So,
Which sister was that?
the one who's here in,
Up in Sarasota.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
they were very good friends. And they, where for grandfather and grandmother heard about that, let's see, how was it? Lou was in Florida. She was in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And they came to visit in Florida or somebody, so they came in to see grandmother and your father. They came into the house there. When they saw him, Belle was with them. Belle was very much interested in Lou. And Lou, I guess, young man, and she's a nice looking girl, and they got into start going. Now, that led to a marriage.
Had he dated other women, very many women before that, or had he been engaged before that?
No, I don't think so. Maybe he knew him, but I don't think he went out with anybody because I didn't think, I never heard of him going there. Maybe had acquaintances or something like that, but nothing really. And
Back then, of course, it was a lot more difficult for a woman who'd been divorced to get married again because now everybody gets divorced. But
today it's nothing. It's an everyday. It's a party. They go and long as they got the money and the lawyer is anxious to get through with it, it makes a dollar on it, and that's life. Today, it's a different story. Everything is different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You didn't know my brother Mike.
No.
No, I don't think you know him. And I had to know the brother then. He was the one who was supposed to go in the army too if they needed him, you know. Well, here's a guy. He graduated public school, so he went at night school at night, took tests, and my sister was then a teacher or something like that, and she helped him out. I had another sister, you know, not this one, the older one, the one who married Martin, Anderson, Martin
Myerson?
Myerson. And she graduated high school and then went to a normal school, and she became a teacher. She got a license. You know how much salary she get first week?
No.
Getting $15 a week.
Wow.
And you know, so actually she helped him along in some of the studies like algebra and stuff. And he finally took tests and he passed, and I think of all those things. And he was working in a job at the same time, working at a department store, $7 a week. I don't know if you ever heard him mention Batterman's on Green Inn in Brooklyn, the big store. So gradually, I don't know how it came about that, he was admitted to the college, what the name of it is, I can't think. You know, I can sit down sometimes, all alone, and I'll sit and I'll start thinking of things that started way back, and I'll know every detail.
Mm-hmm.
If I come out and try to tell you, I can't picture it yet. Some of it I get right away, and some, you know. But anyway, he went to NYU, and he became an accountant. He was working with a couple of other fellows, an accountant, but he didn't have a CPA yet. But he was studying. He took tests. A couple of times he came with, he had one test there. It required just a difference of opinion. And he wrote, they wouldn't give it to him. But finally, he kept at it and he got it, became a CPA. And he went in with a couple other boys that were also from college, you know, knew him very well and very friendly. And they had their own little company, and he did very well. And he met his wife, you know, my sister Florence tells me she's still living. His wife, she must be in the 90s. And he did very nicely. He made a nice living. And as an accountant, you know, even those days it was a good profession. And he fell somewhere. So he hurt his head. I never got the real full details of what happened to him. And he took something wrong, and he passed away. Then my other brother, Mike, his guy was very handy with everything. He had a little shop, he had a little store, he tried different things. And he finally he was supposed to get married when he came back from the army, but the girl's parents didn't want him. The hell he has no profession, you know, Jewish family, they look for that. So anyway, my sister, the one who was the teacher, had a girlfriend. You know, they both were in school, both teachers. They went to vacation, they went together. And she met this brother Mike. Well, they got along pretty good. I don't know, years went by and she had something went wrong with her and she passed away. So he was left without anybody. I don't think he didn't consider marriage at all. He was always talking about his wife, how much he loved her and all that. And he finally got old. And, you know, Martin Meyerson had a lot of influence. He got him into, he was in a home, you know, he was an ex-soldier. But they couldn't get to see him so often. Right then, he wasn't doing very well. Anyway, but Martin Meyerson got him transferred to Philadelphia, where Martin lives, in Philadelphia. You know, Pennsylvania University. So they were able to go and see him a lot. The only thing that was wrong with him is his old age. He got sick, weak, and he passed on. So that's the way that practically the whole family. Then Florence met Freddie, and Florence used to work. At one time, she worked as a counter operator in a department store, and Freddie was doing very well. You know, Freddie, I'd like to show you that paper. He's 14 or 15. He got a job with Dow Jones.
Mm-hmm.
But he made a mistake, so they let him go. He made one mistake, they let him go. So anyway, he gets a job with a coffee company.
Which company was that?
Oh, let me try to think.
Was it Old Dutch or something?
Eh?
Old Dutch?
Yeah, Old Dutch.
Right.
Old Dutch. And he graduated himself as president. And he did exceptionally well, he did. And he has Larry, and this fellow went to Venezuela and came back to his family here now. And he had a granddaughter too. She was divorced and she married some other man, and Florence tells me this man is so wonderful to her, you know. And that's the way it is. The family, Laura's gone, everybody's gone. The only two left is Florence and the other family.
What did your father do for a living?
My father, you know, it must have been when he came over on a ship. You know, the parents in those days in Russia, they could send their children away from Russia because all they had the future for them was to be in the army or something or whatever. They didn't, you know, a Jewish boy with nothing. So, you know, in those days, there's some people came here, they had a little shop or something, they did all right. So what do they do? How do they get help? You wanted to get help. You went down when the boat came in, and you wanted help. You took the man, this man, you took him home, fed him, put him in a place to sleep. In the morning he got up, and they took him into a shop to work. You realize that there's thousands and thousands like that. That's how they came over. They vouched for them, and they took them and signed them up and took them and put them in. So, those days they worked very little for very nothing, and they managed to make a living. And finally, his wife, after her brother, she met my father. You know, young couple, they managed to make a living. They did almost everything.
What
Or they, you know, my father used to peddle and stuff, everything to make a living. You know, you couldn't, you had nobody to back you up to try to get you a job and put you in the business or anything like that. I remember the time my father was using a machine, a push cart there, selling ice cream bricks. You know, ice cream to make a living. And my mother used to go out, if they had a push cart on the Market Street there, Moore Street there, with goods to peddle, she'd try to help them to sell and everything. They got along, they managed to get along. That's how they got in. They thousands and thousands of them. Some of them have finally got some other help, you know, from some relatives or somebody that. My brother's brother there, he used to come see us, you know, made a living. He did all right. He had a big family too. 5 or 6. Every family is 5 or 6 people at least. And so my father had to work. He worked there on the peddling machine, pressing, and a shop, you know, where they pressed the things that were made. It's just a hard life. It was a hard life, but they somehow they brought up a family of 6 children.
Did your mother work outside the home too?
Huh?
Did your mother work outside the home too?
Oh.
Your mother?
My grandmother?
No, your mother. Did she work outside the home? Did she have a job?
Hey, that's what I'm saying. She helped them. They went to a push cart there, and they used to stand there and they tried to sell to make a dollar, you know. So when I came along with the $2, it was a help too.
That's right. So you contributed to the household?
Yeah, with the $2,
Sure.
And fortunately, you know, what used to happen would come around Christmas time, and all the stores I went to, this one gave me $1, this one gave me for Christmas $50, one guy gave me a whole dollar, you know. So I have, maybe when I got through, maybe $7 or $8. So what that do with it? I think I went and bought a suit of clothes. And it's hard to realize those things. If you're good at writing, you can write a whole story about it. What went on if you remember everything.
That's right. Do you remember your grandparents at all?
Oh?
Your grandparents?
No, they didn't agree. That's my mother and father. No, I didn't have no grandparents here. You see, the most worst part was these people in Europe, they wanted their children out of the army and stuff like that. So they knew they get some money together, get a passport or something, that you're gone. They knew they'll never see him again. You'll never see him again. And it was heartbreaking, but they figured that had to be done. The conditions there in the Russian army or Polish army, that's what it was. If you got out, you were lucky. There's thousands of them got out. Some of them managed better than others. But I used to cook and everything. they didn't know from no cooking machines and no washing machines. And they had a wash tub. They used to put the stove with a board and a scrub board.
Mm-hmm.
Life changes and it'll change still more, you know. They, who would ever think you'd have a machine like that to take pictures?
Right. Was it hard growing up and being Jewish?
What?
Was it hard being Jewish? Did you ever suffer any discrimination because you were Jewish?
Well, my father had that trouble too. He used to go peddling with the, as you said, they used to try to rob, take it from him, wouldn't pay him. And, well, in other cases, they'd call you different names, but my father, when he was locked up, he didn't have no license to peddle. The cop came along, he said, "Where's your license?" He got nothing. So he took him to the station house. So we were living on the second floors of the apartment, you know, the old-fashioned apartments. Across the street, there's an Italian fellow. He was the captain of the district. He used to have pigeons there, always flying. You know, those guys that used to have birds flying around. They bring them in and bring them when they.
Mm-hmm.
So my mother told him about it. So he says, "Don't worry." He went down to the station house, he brought it back. No trouble.
Just like that.
Did it? There's some good things happen, some bad things. That's the way it is.
Were you bar mitzvahed?
What?
Were you bar mitzvahed?
Was I what?
Bar mitzvahed.
No. My father taught me different parts of the Bible, something like that. We were in no position to do it. That's all it was. And we felt, today I feel sorry for it, because it's a little embarrassing. You come amongst people that are well versed in the Jewish history, and you can't open your mouth, you don't know how to approach it or say anything. Or I know about all the holidays. I know about the Passover and the Yom Shoshana and Yom Kippur and all those things. And but actually to practice, to be a real religious Jew, I'm not. Not that I harm anybody. We never hurt anybody. We didn't steal from anybody. But there's people that were religious and everything, and they're the biggest crooks in the world. When they went to shul in the holidays, they prayed for forgiveness. That's all. And they went on the next time and did the same thing. So, yeah, I sit sometimes and I start thinking, boy, when I started to go to school, I can tell you the day I entered school. I know my sister took me, and they sat me down in the chair. They got my name and everything. I'm sitting, wait, this one is called and taken. Finally, one of the teachers says, "What are you doing here? What do they want me? Why are you here?" I can't explain that. We're supposed to begin the class. They started looking, they couldn't find a record of anything. So finally they looked and looked and looked, and I don't know if they found or they made it up, and anyway, they put me in the class to go to school.
Do you remember which school that was?
Well, the next school I went to after that was the public school 43. But I don't remember the original school. Maybe that was the same one. You know, you went into school, this public school, big square yard and buildings all around, like this square. And we had the one principal there, And there was one guy used to be in charge that way. Before you went up, you all lined up in the courtyard, like, and they used to have bugles blow bugle, and when that was done, you went up to your class. They used to play ball in that courtyard and everything. It was a well-known school for athletics. Public School 43, they did very well in different games and stuff like that.
Did you play any athletics?
I don't think I was that inclined for that, to that. And he walked home 3 blocks. He went home for lunch. He walked back. Ride? Buses? Whoever heard of them? Whoever heard of them? You had to go to school. You had to wait for your bus to take you. So, that school, I think, is still standing there. I wouldn't be surprised. The school my sister went to, I went to a school late after that, that Public School 43. I was transferred for other reason. I was out of the district. We moved. See, we happened to move a different apartment, so they transferred me to Public School 147. We had the principal there, a boys' side and a girls' side. And the principal, he was about in the 80s. And I think he had the degree, a doctor's degree, Dr. Rain, I remember his name. And when it came to graduation, we had a big auditorium there. So I had my other father came to see me graduate. So they're sitting down, some guy comes over, you can't sit here. So I have to be sitting right next to them, right near him. I said, just a minute. My mother and father, that's a different story. They felt so good about it, they talked for it a long time. And I got up and snuck up for them.
Wonderful. What happened to your mother and father? When did they die?
My father lived for quite a while too, but he's getting old. He had a couple of operations. I think he had something wrong there. And Mike's wife knew somebody in a home there on the east side there. They took him in there. He had a place to live because my mother was gone. My mother was diabetic. Yeah, and she must have been about 65, 68, so she passed away. They didn't know anything about penicillin and all that stuff.
Or insulin?
He used to die, go to the doctor, tell him that don't need this, don't need that. And he was going. Grandfather was left alone, so he stayed with my sister. My sister, being a teacher, she bought a little home. The home was right next to your grandparents' home. You see, right next door they lived. So that's where she lived, and my father lived with her. I have a little picture home being. He's sitting outside on the porch there. If you remember that porch. KMUW.
No.
No, you wouldn't remember.
No.
And the porch, they're sitting outside. If Martin was 1 year old, and I got the picture. But 1 year old, he became such a brilliant man. He had, I think, a photographic memory or something. He when it came to time to go in the army, he was the head guy in some company of what do you call it? People that work on, like he worked in Philadelphia. He worked for the building, how the hot homes were to be built or something. What do you call that? Can't think of it again. Anyway, there's Martin sitting. He's 1 year old in the picture there, and his sister and the old man on the stoop there, outside where their parents lived. The other thing remarkable that sometimes you can think back so much, remember so many things, and if somebody asks you about it, you can. What are you doing? Taking the pictures, or
We're making a movie while we're talking.
while you're talking?
The whole thing.